We are looking how South Park remain as top animated of all time for so long, even got better recently, why it got a lot of hate, and the effect it's had on us as a society. If you don't know about this show, South Park is an animated TV show that began in 1997 and is still on the air. Primarily, it's about four little boys in a small mountain town dealing with the absurdity of the world as it unfolds in front of their eye, a very funny, irreverent cartoon. It is infamous for its use of dirty material, including sexual content and cursing, even having an episode in which shit was said 162 times. As the show has progressed, it has increasingly had plots focused on satirizing current events. Unlike its closet counterpart, South Park has managed to remain culturally relevant despite being on the air for more than 20 years. They know how to make people laugh like Randy, Wheel of Fortune. 5 seconds, Mr. Marsh. The answer was naggers. Or, freeze, I'm a cop! And it also make people think. This show has a completely unique approach to several divisive or thought-provoking subjects. To name a few, The Hobbit looks at how photoshopped photos make society expectations of a woman's body hard to reach, and the amount of pressure it may put on little girls, whilst taking hilarious jabs at Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. You're Getting Old takes you over the nightmare that is feeling like you might be mentally older than you friends, and that may make Left Out. Console Wars episodes dive into the consumerism, involving Black Friday, video games, and the world's obsession with Game of Thrones. The show is as popular as ever in 2023 after 20 years of running. I know that a while back, there was a trend where full episodes of Family Guy were broken up into TikToks, and it plagued everyone's algorithm. This is going to sound unbelievable, but the TikTok videos of South Park clips with mobile gameplay underneath have become a thing. So many people are able to see the show for the first time due to TikTok's For You page, placing random videos on your feed. Another big thing to consider is how these clips just happen to catch fire and go viral right before the exciting release of the new season. What's even more interesting is that this new season turned out to be some of the best South Park we've seen in years. Every episode is absolutely hilarious and has a very well-developed story. It's really hard not to like these episodes. Yet, despite its popularity, South Park stands out as a show that's been at the heart of major controversies more consistently than any other. It's pretty wild. They've managed to keep the buzz going for a solid 25 years now. The most offensive South Park episodes fire shots at everyone. Celebrities, politicians, religious figures. No one is safe. Episodes 200 and 201 are among the most heavily censored episodes in the series' history. The two-parter features the return of Tom Cruise and the Church of Scientology, who want a meeting with the Muhammad character that was introduced in a previous episode. The episode explores the controversy surrounding depictions of the Prophet Muhammad, which are forbidden in Islam. The episode led to violent threats against South Park online. It was too risque even for Comedy Central, who bleeped out parts of the South Park episode and removed others entirely. The episodes were never broadcast again or put online for streaming. 13 years later, the only way to watch them is to buy them on Blu-ray or DVD. It still stands as one of the most controversial South Park episodes ever made, or episode The China Problem. Cartman, all hyped up from watching the Beijing Olympics, goes full conspiracy theorist, thinking China's about to invade the US. So, he starts this American Liberation Front thing and gets Butters on board. Meanwhile, Stan, Kyle, and Kenny are just hanging out, watching Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and they're seriously upset about how the filmmakers messed up the iconic character. Things take a wild turn as the boys try to get Spielberg and Lucas in trouble. Cartman goes all in with a stereotypical Chinese outfit to snoop around a local restaurant. And poor Butters ends up in a bizarre situation involving a man's, sensitive area. Yeah, it gets crazier from there. Can actually see, though, why some dislike it. A lot of the content is very controversial and not for the easily offended. The show is crude, extremely rude, possibly the rudest animated show ever. Naughty, at times juvenile, and less than subtle in its treatment of taboo subjects. At the same time, South Park is hilarious, smart, witty, and daring, but also clever, sharp, irreverent, and intelligent. The satirical humor is subversive, and there are not many animated shows this daring, completely contradicting the tired and incredibly annoying cliché spouted constantly that animation is only for children. Often by parents defending a panned family film. Often one is shocked at how much South Park gets away with everything. Every subject and every everyday issues is covered and satirized, it seems. Nothing escapes the writers. While subtlety completely goes out the window, so much of what South Park says has a huge amount of truth and relevance, both when it first aired and still very much so now. Like good satire, should it does it in a daring and perhaps divisive fashion, not holding back and taking no prisoners. This should sound like a recipe for disaster, but actually to me, it was why the show is so loved and admired. When South Park burst onto the scene, it was a game changer for Comedy Central. People couldn't get enough. And it's fair to say, the show played a massive role in making the network a big deal. Herzog himself gives credit to South Park for really putting Comedy Central on the map. The show's success wasn't just good news for the channel. It practically turned Comedy Central into one of the fastest growing cable channels around. The whole South Park empire is estimated to be worth a whopping $8 billion. That's not just from the TV show. We're talking about a whole bunch of stuff. Merchandise, video games, movies, you name it. And let's talk about the show itself. South Park isn't just another animated series. It's become a cultural touchstone. Fans are everywhere, and they're not just watching. They're living and breathing South Park. The show consistently lands on those best cartoon of all time lists, and it's earned its stripes at the Emmy Awards, getting nominated 16 times for Outstanding Animated Program and taking home the trophy 4 times. Speaking of South Park's cultural impact, it's not just about the show's success. It's also about how it infiltrated everyday language and pop culture. Take, for example, the iconic catchphrases that became part of our lexicon. Right after one of Kenny's infamous deaths, you'd hear Stan shouting, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny!" And Kyle chiming in with a stern, "You bastard!" That became a thing. A catchphrase that people everywhere were using. It's crazy how a running gag about Kenny's recurring deaths turned into one of the most recognized things in modern TV. Then there's Cartman, with his unforgettable exclamations like, "Respect my authority," and "Screw you guys, I'm going home." During the early seasons, those lines were everywhere. You couldn't escape them. Cartman's quirky, "Hey," even made it into the Oxford Dictionary of Catchphrases in 2002. That's the kind of impact South Park had on our everyday language. Now, let's talk about some of the show's memorable episodes. In Chef Aid, attorney Johnny Cochran pulls off what's now known as the Chewbacca defense, using plot holes related to Chewbacca in Return of the Jedi to confuse jurors. The term Chewbacca defense has made its way into real discussions about legal tactics and public debate. And who could forget the Gnomes episode in Season 2? These underpants gnome, running a corporation stealing people's underpants, had a hilarious 3-step business plan. Collect underpants. Phase 3, profit. No one knew what Phase 2 was, and it became a meme to mock gaps in logic, especially in politics and economics. South Park even left its mark in the scientific world. When a mutated gene causing fruit flies to die was discovered, it was named KEP1 in honor of Kenny by Sophie Rutschman of the University of Strasbourg. That's the kind of legacy that goes beyond just TV. It's a cultural institution. None of those network shows could be like South Park, of course. Being an animated series gave and still gives it the edge to be out there in creativity, which now, 25 years later, has been refreshed. And now in their early 50s, Trey and Matt seem to have their A game back.